Here are 5 tips how to edit faster in Premiere Pro. Tip number 1 are proxies. Proxies are probably one of the best ways to get some editing speed back from your machine, especially if you have a slower computer or working with 4K footage. It's often necessary to work with proxies. So even for me, I have a pretty fast PC, but I also like to use proxies sometimes if I do a lot of color grading and a lot of effects, some denoising. Yeah, it just runs smoother overall, and I don't really mind losing some quality in the image, because when I turn the proxies off, I see the footage as it is, and I just like working faster, So I recommend to you use proxies. Tip number 2, if you have a bigger project and you have a lot of clips, my tip would be that you select your clips, for example the A roll, and give them a specific color. Your B roll gets a specific color, and so on. Just so in the editing process, when you look for some specific footage, for example your A roll or your B roll or drone footage whatsoever, then you can just go in the project panel and see, okay, for example my drone footage has the color yellow, and all the clips that are yellow are drone footage, and you don't have to click through every single clip and ask yourself, is this my drone footage or is it something else? That can really speed up the workflow, especially in the long run. Maybe not in the beginning, but in the long run it speeds up the workflow quite a bit. But in my opinion, this tip is just for bigger projects a good idea, because if you have a small project with just a few clips and you want to edit something fast, then it doesn't really matter. So if the project is bigger, then this is a good tip. Tip number 3 would be to use the tool in Premiere Pro Find Cut, especially if you nest a sequence together and you need the cuts on the nested timeline again, then Finding Cuts is a great opportunity. Or you get footage from another editor or whatsoever, or you downloaded something and you want to have cuts at the specific points, then Finding Cuts is pretty helpful to not do it yourself, and goes pretty fast. I'm pretty sure in other editing softwares like DaVinci there should be a tool that's pretty similar, and in Premiere it's pretty easy. You just go to Sequence and Find Cuts, and Premiere will do the heavy lifting for you. Tip number 4 would be to use stock footage. I know not everyone has accessibility to stock footage. Not everyone is subscribed to a stock footage provider like Storyblocks, for example, but there are a lot of free tools to use in the internet, as you may know. And YouTube can also be a place to find some stock footage. And stock footage doesn't always have to be someone running in the mountains in a beautiful sunrise. It can also be some stock footage like transitions, burn overlays, noise overlays. That kind of stuff is really, really helpful and can speed up your editing and make it more interesting, attracting to the eye, visually appealing, you name it. Tip number 5, the last tip, would be to get a good folder structure. And in my opinion, this is a very, very important step in your editing workflow that is often overlooked. The problem is if you edit a project and then in the future you edit something similar, or okay, there was an effect or an overlay that I used which I could really use right now, then if you don't have a good folder structure, you will search for that video or stock footage or whatsoever 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe you don't even find it. And a good folder structure will help you find your stuff more easily. I would recommend you do a folder where you have all your sound effects, visual effects, stock footage, maybe some presets for Premiere Pro, After Effects, whatsoever, maybe Photoshop folder for thumbnails, so that you always know where to look for your stuff. It can also be helpful to have a folder structure preset for Premiere Pro, so a project file folder and export, sound effects, whatsoever. But I will talk in another video about that. And if you want me to make a video about folder structure in general, maybe more in depth, more details, which folders are necessary and helpful and which are not, then I can make a more detailed video about that topic if you want. If you like the video, then leave it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss future videos on this channel, then subscribe to the channel and you won't miss any videos in the future again, hopefully. Have a nice day. Bye bye.